So, sound is good. It seems like audio is pretty good. Let's do this.
All right. So I definitely jotted down a few points as I was going through the news over the weekend. So, first one, did you hear about Kamala Harris in Guatemala?
I heard something about her going down there. I heard her defending her or like herself going down there because like she wants to go to the root of the problem, like where things are actually an issue and not just focus as much on the borders, which I mean, I definitely agree that we like the border crisis doesn't start when it hits America. It starts in the countries that we have kind of overthrown and destabilized.
Yeah, that we've been playing Black Ops games in since the Cold War.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, well, she straight up said to the asylum seekers, "Do not come," were her exact words. And I'm like, okay, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like, like I said, these people are literally no different.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's one thing where like the kids in cages thing, that was definitely something that
We're still keeping kids in cages.
I know, but the precedent that was started under Trump with Stephen Miller and all of the like Homeland Security stuff that was going on with that was a whole new level. But
right,
we've been dealing with that for like it's not like Obama was good on like immigration. Like I don't understand why we're so like it's not like people would just overrun our country. Like I saw a Midas touch map of like voting, and because they always show like the entire state red where
right.
Republicans are voting, but when you break it down to where people are actually voting in that state, it's like
Actually
this
live.
little tiny red spot, yeah, where people actually live. And we're not in any kind of danger of being overrun in this country. Like,
I mean, the only thing we're in danger of being overrun by are these corporate drones that like to parade the progressive flag for about a year when it's election season. And then, oh, look, they're like, I don't understand why the Republicans are so upset by Biden. I'm like, this guy's a victory for you.
yeah.
He's more of a victory for them than anyone who's at all left of Trump. Because like Biden's not even left of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He's just more palatable for the mainstream media.
Exactly. Well, and I would say that like no, I lost it. I lost where I was going with that one. We'll come back to it anyways.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like I don't think that there's much of a like we've looked at like Biden's history is definitely questionable to be it being overly fair. It's fair to say that his past is questionable. And like Donald Trump, yeah, he's horrible and out there and in your face, just bad. But
right.
At least he's bad on the surface. Like that he's not holding a Bible to give you faith that he can hold a Bible in the proper direction and can read you a quote.
He's doing it for what I call the American Jesus impression.
Trump?
Yeah, that's Trump's whole thing with the Bible. Because actually, I want to touch on that because we see the Republicans in particular talking about God and the church and all of this, and I'm like, well, really, the American Jesus is pretty fucking scary. I just imagine some beer belly dude with a fucking machine gun and a Klan mask on.
Yeah, well, I think that the Americanization of like the Americanized version of Christianity has become something really scary. I mean, in general, like I don't know. Most of the violence in the world has come from disputes of religion. So
Yeah.
like, this weird thing that like where there's this like piety, like this piousness and talking about religion and how it should be incorporated in our values and stuff. And like, sure, there are some good allegories in all of the books, not just, like the Bible, but
Hmm.
it's like stuff that is supposed to lead you down a better path, but that's not what we're using it for here. Where
No,
like they're like,
mostly when they say they want us to be a Christian nation, from what I can see, they mean the Old Testament.
well, and I don't even think they know, because like I just shared something about AOC, that it was like this quote of Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that COVID is like a bioweapon and God would never create something that would harm people. And AOC is like,
What?
tell me you've never read the Bible without telling me you've never read the Bible.
Right, exactly. That's what that
It's like
is.
literally there's like pestilence and plagues, and plagues
The
and plagues.
the
Like,
plagues of Egypt, turning people into pillars of salt and like burning cities and shit.
it's there's a
I
lot that
mean,
happens in
realistically, the Bible's pretty fucking metal.
there. It really is. I mean, and it's just like I think it's strange how like the Republicans only use it to control people, because
Of course.
like they can ban abortion all they want. There will always be abortions for
Yeah,
the rich people that are working to ban the abortions,
of course.
because whatever senator just signed that, those bills into law, is also a senator that when his 16-year-old daughter comes home pregnant is going to try and get her taken care of under the cloak of night, and
Yeah,
or just have her go away for a few years and say it's their new kid. Like
exactly.
they're going to hide it because they don't. And even if they do want to have some sort of like ban on abortion, they don't want to do anything that like child care is expensive.
It
And
is.
like before I had kids, I was just like, yeah, whatever, it's like, I didn't really have much of an opinion on it, other than you shouldn't tell people what to do with their own body. Like, you shouldn't be in control of that.
Yeah.
And it always didn't make a lot of sense to me why they didn't have this restrictions on guys either, because I'm sorry, but like those graphics that get passed around are true. Like, a guy can impregnate way more women than women
Yeah.
get pregnant, and that guy is not held responsible for any of the pregnancies that he causes, especially in the states that are passing these laws.
Oh yeah.
And but that woman can face prison time. The doctor that helps her can face prison time. It's like, it's this archaic like pull to people's emotions, where there's not even like, only the most evangelical of Christians are really holding on to that. Like, anybody who is like, I think the grip of that kind of stuff is kind of loosening with our generation, because
Yeah.
there are a lot more people from our generation and below that are, and beyond, I guess, that are like waking up to like, well, science does mean something.
Right.
Like, yeah, you can say that God doesn't want abortions and stuff, but sometimes somebody has cancer and they're pregnant at the same time, and you have
Yeah.
to choose, either that person's going to live or the baby's going to live, or they're both going to die. Like, there are situations that you can't help with an abortion. And like, the way that people tie the Bible to it just blows my mind. And it's such a simple thing to, or like, dig their claws into people with. It's just like, insecurities in males being like, insecurities and father issues in males being a gateway into white supremacy or any kind of extremism.
Yeah.
And not necessarily because they don't have male role models, but because they don't have any kind of role model to, like, they just have insecurities. And so like, that's an easy gateway for people to get, like, it's the same kind of a thing. And that's why the Republicans excel at it, because they're used to digging their fingers into the vulnerabilities and gullibleness of Americans and pulling them in to get them riled up over nonsense. And it's mind-boggling to me.
And actually, speaking of, I loved this story. It was a highlight on something else from Fox News. Speaking of digging into American fear, they were talking about, so it's this medical research bill that got signed, and they're saying we're going to have chimeras, we're going to have human-animal hybrids. Now, first off, if we're going to create Man-Bat, I am fucking here for it. I'm totally here for Man-Bat.
Or Man-Bear-Pig. Al Gore is for it.
I think Man-Bat would be more entertaining.
I think all of it would be good.
Right.
Well, I saw that, and it's just, I don't even know where people come up with this crap. Like,
right.
What's
I have no
funny
idea.
is the magazine that used to come out with that shit all the time that you saw in the grocery stores was the same one running cover for Donald Trump just 4 years ago that went bankrupt because they were tying themselves to Donald Trump, like everything that happens that touches that man. But like the Weekly World News and those people, you know, like that's where we're at again, except now they're justified as news networks. Like Alex Jones should have never had the platform that he did. Like that kind of shit is scary. And now he's mild compared to the stuff that's out there. Like,
yeah,
the OANN, and like they just straight up lie. Like,
at least we hope they're lying and they don't actually believe in this shit. We hope they're lying.
Well, and that's the thing, though. Some of them do, and that's what's scary.
Although realistically, at this point, depending on their politics, I would probably campaign for the lizard people. If they wanted to actually fucking run, tell me your platform, I might actually campaign for you. Because I mean, let's be realists. Mammals haven't been doing the best job of running this shit show.
That's true. I would vote cephalopod because I think that they are probably smarter than at least 48% of Americans.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, depending on what their stance is on healthcare and
right.
I believe that everybody deserves a working wage.
Like, are the lizards socialist?
Bernie Salamanders.
Exactly.
That's actually the name of one of my Argonian characters in Skyrim. It's Bernie Salamanders. That's right. But yeah, it could also be a lizard politician.
Could be.
I did just get to the Bard school, so I should probably work on that one. Anyways. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's really weird. Like there was that did you catch that John Oliver like he's done a lot of stuff on like local news networks that has been very eye-opening recently. He did one about like sponsored content, which was pretty fascinating. But also did you see the video about Sinclair broadcasting?
I did not see that one.
I highly suggest you watch it because it's basically just like they put this. You've probably seen the YouTube clip of like all of these newscasters on different networks saying the exact same script at the exact same time, and it's just like this grid of people that grows, and they're all saying the same thing on the news because this network was like they're a conservative local news affiliate. And so they have CBS and NBCs, but they're, you know, all local ones. And
right.
They send out a script for all of their people to do. They do segments like the terrorist Muslims in Minnesota, and like just weird
Right.
random shit to fearmonger people and keep them scared. But because it's local news, it doesn't, it's not hitting that. It's still a way to kind of fly under the radar, even in the world of the internet where everybody is exposed. You're just hitting that demographic of like over 45 who probably still buys cable.
We have to worry about Sharia law in Oklahoma or what the fuck ever.
Yeah, because
like no one's trying, or like what are there going to be terrorists if they try to build a mosque in my little town here? That's probably why there isn't one.
Yeah. And you know what? That kind of stuff works, because the first time I ever saw a mosque, I was kind of freaked out because I had never seen a mosque before. And like moving from Big Bear to Oregon, like that was my transition. And I went from like living in a town that was kind of built from the ground up by the KKK and drug runners and shit in the desert, to living in a place where like I was in a community with a ton of Muslims everywhere, and I did not know how to handle that, because I was just like, I've never been exposed to any kind of culture before. The most foreign like religious group in town were the Mormons, or maybe the Jehovah's Witnesses. Like that was all I knew. So
I went through the reverse, going to Big Bear from this predominantly Latin neighborhood. I was like one of the only white kids I knew. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's weird. It's it's a culture shock for sure. Yeah. I was watching a really interesting video. There's TYT just started a new series with this guy who Dr. Rashad Ritchie. I don't know. I think he might teach at Harvard. Don't quote me on that. He's he teaches at a pretty nice school, and he gets like Republicans and conservatives on his show to debate them and just like have a discussion. And it was on gun control, and it was with Texas, like I think Rashad Ritchie worked on the Bernie Sanders campaign as well, and I think that's where he kind of got into the political side of things, apart from his like academic side. But yeah, I just watched a debate with him on gun control, and it was really fascinating, because it's just like the argument that I ever hear on that is so, I don't know, it's kind of spotty at best. Like anytime I can get a conversation about it, I know I never get anything that really makes sense from the other side to me.
I mean, my entire thought on gun control is we actually need to focus more on gun responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, because that's where the real problem is. Because, I mean, the thing is, these kids that are going and shooting up their schools or whatever, they're getting a hold of mom and dad's guns. So clearly you're not responsibly locking up your firearms or having any conversations with your children about safety and responsibility. It's still the same shit of don't touch them. I'm like, they're in a case that you could cut open with a knife, even if you have a lock on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So control isn't the issue. It's an abject lack of responsibility.
I think that there is a component of control that needs to be addressed, though, because like, I mean, honestly, like one of the arguments that I hear a lot is that it keeps the community safer. Like if there's like a concealed carry and like, or an open carry, and people can just carry a gun on them, supposedly that makes the community safer.
Not really. I get kind of nervous if I go to fucking Petco and someone has a gun on their hip.
Exactly.
I'm like, why?
Like like the guy that was arguing with Dr. Ritchie said that it's he said that what concerns him about the Second Amendment is that people are trying to take it away, and that makes him angry. And it's like, but that argument is so lopsided. Like it doesn't work, because like with freedom of speech, you have the freedom to speak your mind and not be arrested for, speaking up. But there are certain things that you can't say. You can't go into a movie theater and shout fire,
right?
Cause people to get hurt. You can go to prison for that. You can have action taken against you for it. And
like, just because I don't think people should be rolling around with, Mac 10s or, basically any form of fucking automatic pistol, doesn't mean I'm against the Second Amendment. Just what's the point in that?
Yeah.
And
well, and like,
why do you need to go to Walmart with a handgun on your hip?
Exactly. Because that's also, like, I have freedom to not feel as though I'm going to get shot when I go somewhere. I think that should be like a general, like, that should be a comfort that people can enjoy. Like, I should not have to feel afraid to send my children to school, and like, send them to school in clear backpacks, and where they have to go through, tons of metal detectors to, and have security guards at checkpoints in their school. And like, how is that not like Big Brother? Like, how is that not more? Because when I was a kid, I sure as fuck wouldn't have wanted to deal with all of that. And, we went to school. Like, I remember when Lisa Ling was on Channel 1 News talking about the shooting in Columbine. And I was at school in Utah. Everybody, like, it was close to it wasn't close to hunting season. It was April, but it was, like, that August, everybody in the school had guns in their truck because it was hunting season. Like, that's not, it's not that we're afraid of guns, but I still have a right to not have to worry about some dumbass in Walmart carrying a gun into a situation that didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
Because what if you and your insecurities all of a sudden get afraid of somebody that's in the store, and now you're trying to use your piece as, like, I saw a guy the other day in a grocery store wearing sweats, and he's all like just gnarly as shit. And like, we're standing in line for checkout, and he pulls out a gun and starts flashing it at the person next to him, and like thinking that he's funny and like cocking it and shit. I'm like, dude, we're in a store, we're in line. Yeah. What if that accidentally went off? Like, there are people around. Like, what is the point of doing this? Why do you need to have a gun wherever you go? Right. Is that really making you feel safer? Does it make you feel better to know that you could shoot somebody? Like, like, why are you so afraid that you need a gun to leave the house is really the question that it makes me ask, because I don't feel that afraid unless I see some asshole with a gun. Like,
I mean, I relatively get it if you're driving for DoorDash or any kind of delivery driver. Okay, people get robbed doing that shit. I understand that. I've seen that around here, but also, like I've said, if I'm going into the damn, pet store, why do you have a gun looking at the aquariums? Are you going to shoot the fucking fish if they look at you wrong?
Yeah. Well, are you like waiting for that opportunity to see somebody that you might think is a trans coming out of a bathroom so you can attack them? Because that seems like the scenario that you're waiting for when you're just standing around somewhere casually with a gun. Like,
well, and if you're that much of a manly man, why do you need a gun? Can't you handle shit without it?
Exactly. And I'm not a fighter. But I know that if it came down to it, I would throw everything I have at somebody.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to carry a gun, because Me getting nervous and firing bullets in any kind of, like habitated area is not going to be making anybody safer. And if I'm not that, I'm fairly calm and collected. I imagine that plenty of people are much worse.
Like all the cops who say, I got nervous. And I'm like, but your entire existence is based on having your shit together.
I was in fear of my life.
Right.
Like, I mean, I worked in a lot, I worked in a coffee shop in a very yuppie part of town. And there were several times where, like, if I had the discretion that a police officer has, there would have been a lot of body bags going out of that coffee shop. Because, like, people get super aggressive over their coffee and morning pastry.
Like, I have seen that shit.
I mean, I've had people pour hot coffee on my chest because they were pissed that it was too hot or that it tasted bitter or like, and I can't attack somebody. I can't throw that person on the ground and put my knee on their neck for 9 minutes because I would go to prison for a very long time.
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, I worked in a hospital for a long time. I've had people, like, I've watched people just scream at doctors, like, to the point where the doctors have to call the cops because they're, like, having to hide in a room because there are people trying to murder them because they're mad at what just happened,
Yeah.
The doctor can't just go and pump the patient full of morphine because they got mad. Or, like they can't just go and do something like it just doesn't make sense at police.
Although if people are being that unreasonable, I think the doctor should be allowed to give them a sedative, like, chill the fuck out, we'll talk in a bit.
Yeah, but at the same, I mean, calm some things, but it's also, that's how we got the opioid crisis on our
so. I mean, if they're actually posing a threat of physical harm, I'm like, I can totally see it if you just hit them with a quick few cc's of something to chill them out. Yeah.
I keep a candy dish for people like you. Have one of those. Pick a color and sit in the corner for a few minutes. We'll see what it does.
I mean, that's pretty much what they did with opioids when we were growing up. Here, try this.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, as an adult, having, like, taken Ritalin and Adderall, I don't know what they were given to kids, man, because that was horrible. I would, like, grind my teeth and sweat. And, like, it was like I drank 6 energy drinks every time I would take that stuff, man. It was just like in a row, shotgunned them, just like, ooh, heart pounding and stuff. That's not good. We shouldn't be giving that.
Shotgunned them like what we were doing when Red Bull was new.
Yeah. Or, well, I mean, I used to drink Monsters when it was new, and it was like that horrible, like 300 calorie can of sugar that is like basically just heartburn and antifreeze. And you just like down it and ugh.
And you're like, why am I doing this to myself? It tastes so bad.
Yeah, I mean, anything that makes your pee turn neon yellow is probably not something you should be drinking.
Right.
But,
Well, that's the 1,000 milligrams of B vitamins they dump into it.
Yeah, it's still, and that's healthy, right? Because there's vitamins.
I mean, an amount of B vitamins is healthy for you because it naturally occurs in a lot of food, but, not half a bottle of them.
Yeah.
In one sitting.
Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. That was, I guess, a lot to unpack. That we touched on gun control and cops and everything. We're just going on everything. It's just right.
Why not?
Well, one thing I would like to talk about. Let's talk about Joe Manchin a little bit.
Right. Which, I hope what's sad is there's people in shock of, oh, he's taking dark money from corporations. Like, the only surprising part is he actually got caught.
Yeah. Like, he's taking dark money from corporations. Like, what the fuck do you think he was fighting all so hard for all this time because he just has a love for screwing over his constituents.
I mean, that too.
Reason. I mean, the things that he is like keeping out of the Senate and refusing to allow to go to vote is shit that is bipartisan. Like it pulls through the roof. Like over 70% of Republican voters want like the Voting Rights Acts to go through and the Paycheck Fairness Acts and like minimum wage. All of that stuff is going to help people in West Virginia.
Right.
Like that is the cause of West Virginia right there. I don't know who would be fighting against that.
Right.
So I can't imagine that anybody that is voting for Joe Manchin is actually living in that state. I wonder if they just have a set number of votes that they have, and they put Joe Manchin in there because he's that pivot. So that if they have a Republican or they have a Democrat in office and they happen to get into power, we've got our little, like, you know, our keystone here that we can kick out of place and the whole bridge falls down because nothing's going to happen on the Democratic side, even though you're in power.
Exactly.
Like, he's basically just a Republican. And the fact that Biden is, again, like, if Biden did what Trump did, we would have anything that he wanted to pass done already.
Yeah.
But the Democrats are so freaking afraid to do anything. Like they try and hide behind this bipartisan shit, and they use Joe Manchin as like, oh, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema won't sign off on it. Who gives a shit? We have, like, you guys control the House right now and the Senate and the White House. Why aren't you using your power for good?
Because they have no interest in doing that, with the exception of the squad or Justice Democrats, whatever you want to call them, which are what, maybe less than 10 people. No one else wants to change anything. I mean, look, Pelosi and Feinstein have been there what, fucking longer than we've been alive, and they've been doing the same shit for decades.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, Joe Manchin, I noticed he looks like a younger clone of George Soros.
Who knows?
Which explains a lot.
Well, and I think that is, like, I don't know. I know that, like, people should be more concerned about how much money goes into buying the people that we are voting into power.
Right.
Because none of these people are doing anything that is polling as popular for from the American people. And that should be a huge concern. Like, I don't understand why people don't pay attention to that more. Like, like, you know, Pew Research has tons of polls showing that, like, even Texans think that there need to be stronger restrictions on gun ownership and certain weapons should be banned, and that people should be required to have a license for their weapons and a permit for their guns. And what did they do? They, like, 76% of Republicans say that gun owners should have a license in Texas. And then they passed that, you know, no need for a license or a permit to carry a weapon in public in Texas. Like, that's your base. And you're not even listening to that. You're just passing shit. Why? Who are you trying to impress here? You know? I mean,
part of it is, I mean, a lot of their donors are probably this mainstream media where we see it, where if a Republican does something horrible and evil and abjectly wrong, Fox News goes to the mat to defend it. Well, yeah, everyone else, NBC, CNN, whatever, is attacking it. But then we see the inverse. Biden, Manchin, any Democrat does something really bad, then Fox News is the only one attacking. But I'm like, the only problem you guys have is it's not your guy doing this shit. Because when your guy does this shit, you go and defend it somehow. Yeah. Or you go, here's a human interest piece on why I don't Kamala Harris is this amazing person or whatever, fawning over it.
Yeah. Well, and it's all like the idea, like I don't know, the phrase identity politics gets thrown around a lot, but if like the Democrats live on what I would consider like identity politics, which is just trying to look good on the surface for a
Right.
certain demographic, but absolutely not doing anything substantive for them. Like a prime example is Nancy Pelosi and all of the Dems like kneeling in dashikis after George Floyd.
Oh my gosh, that was so
Like
that was insulting.
it's so off base and stupid. It's like I don't even know like who the hell is coming up with this idea, like who had the idea to do this, and was there not any black people in the room to say, hey, this is offensive? Like,
well, looking at the picture, there weren't. It was literally a room of old rich white people doing this. I'm like,
yeah, and
I'm watching the fucking plantation owners do this crap. Are you serious?
And it's like, you know, and then you hear people like Tucker Carlson going on and on about replacement theory and all this shit. Like, oh yeah, because like the Democrats are so strong on wanting to get like open our borders that our vice president is literally telling people not to come to our country.
Yeah.
And you know, like really, because we're just bussing in a bunch of South Americans to vote in Democratic districts, but we don't want to do anything for them while they're here, and we won't really actually let them in the country. Like there's just this nonsense logic.
I mean, never mind the fact that legitimately any of those South Americans actually have more of a claim to this land than any white person because they're descended from the indigenous. So I'm like, we're the replacement theory that you're whining about. Because initially there weren't any white people here.
Again, everything that conservatives whine about and get like fearmonger about is sheer projection.
Yeah.
Like Scaramucci said, the fish rots from the head down. Donald Trump was that way, but he was not the reason the Republican Party is the way it is. He was the end result of how it has been like systematically for decades. And then the culmination of that big festering boil was the gross head of Donald Trump just sitting there waiting to pop. And January 6th was the pop.
Who they're claiming Trump's going to be back in August now.
Well, I mean, it does make sense because the My Pillow guy said it. So
right, because you know that's who I go to for analysis and predictions.
You know, I was in Hobby Lobby the other day with my wife. I hate going into Hobby Lobby, but there are some good things there. So I'll begrudgingly go to Hobby Lobby. I still won't go to Chick-fil-A, even if they're, you know, I mean, like it's a love-hate thing because I can get art supplies there.
Exactly. That's how I feel about it too.
Yeah. But right in the front there, there's like some religious philosophy book by the My Pillow guy, right?
Oh no.
Right in your checkout so you can get it. Yeah. that you know, it's just we're living in a strange time.
We are. Like I don't even live near a Hobby Lobby. I think the nearest one's like an hour away, so I usually go to Joann's or Michael's for my art supplies.
I hate going to Michael's.
It's so hard to find shit in there. Other than canvases for good prices, that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, Joann's will have some. You know what? Actually, Dollar Tree has decent canvases for $1.
Okay.
You can get $1 canvas. And I mean, really, after you put paint on it, it doesn't really matter. especially if you're
I
gonna
mean,
frame it.
all I do is decoupage shit onto it, so
There you go. It's decoupage. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. So what else we got? I mean, Joe Manchin is definitely horrible.
Right. What's funny is I hadn't even heard of Joe Manchin before this past year.
Yeah, no, I didn't know who the hell he was until it was getting more and more clear that the Democrats were going to be rolling into power, and then everything turned on. Okay, this random asshole from West Virginia is like talking up all of a sudden. Why does anybody care what he says? We've got Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren in the Senate. They should be taking care of this shit.
Right.
Like, why do we have like we should have more people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren because they're actually trying to do stuff for people. How is it that nobody is like making that connection? That there are literally people that are trying to help average workers, and like that billboard that in that meme that you sent me, like save the billionaires or protect them, like that is literally the society we're living in, where the billionaires are begging to be saved, and we're like, our government is working their asses off to try and protect the richest people in the country. And I remember that there was something in France that happened with rich people. That's a long time ago. I don't think it ended well for them. And I think that things are I mean, there have been plenty of riots over the last few, I mean, between riots and insurrections and land disputes with, I mean, did you follow any of the stuff that was going on a few years ago? It was when Obama was still in office with the Malheur Reserve in Oregon. The Bundy Ranch people.
Okay, the Bundy Ranch, yeah.
Yeah. So like that was legit scary. And I did not, even on the stuff that I follow, I was not seeing the kind of coverage that I would have liked to in that, because
right,
like that was some shit that like you know, the farmers that were being arrested by the feds had lit some forest on fire because they were poaching. It used to be their land, but the government owned it. So, you know, that's kind of a weird situation, but they were allowed to live and farm and hunt there, but they needed to hunt in season and stuff. And so they were like hunting off season, killed some animals, saw some campers, wanted to hide their tracks, did a backfire, and started a forest fire. And so that was what they were being arrested for, this father and son. They like tried covering it up and didn't report it, because like if they had just reported it to the government, they probably wouldn't have been in as much trouble. But then
they might have gotten a fine for off-season hunting, and that would have been the end of it.
Exactly. But they went and they were assholes, and they did something that should have gotten them in prison. And so the response to that was these Bundy people from Arizona saying, oh, you can't lock these people up. They're patriots and Americans. They're trying to fight the BLM, the other BLM. And, you know, like they're just going full force in to protect these guys. And the town was saying, we don't want the help. The guys, like after about a week of, you know, everything starting to go off the hinges, they're like, we don't want your help anymore. We just want to go to prison and serve our time. Like, just let us go, you know? And they wouldn't go. It got so out of hand that all of these militias from like Idaho and New Mexico and all these surrounding states were starting to head in caravans here to lock down rural Oregon. Again, that county, Malheur County, was one of the counties that voted to become part of Greater Idaho recently.
Oh gosh.
Election. So, you know, like that kind of stuff is concerning, because like long before the insurrection happened, there are plenty of groups out there that don't want anything to do with the government and want to take it down. They have been plotting with mountains of guns for a
Right.
long time to do something about it. They're not really like, I wouldn't necessarily call them racist groups, though a lot of them are.
Yeah.
But you know that there can be diversity in them, but they're all extremists. And
Yeah.
there's like this large swath of people that nobody pays attention to that are the Second Amendment, like, you know, the people that are taking seriously what the Second Amendment says, and they're becoming well-armed militias, but they don't want anything to do with the government. And that's scary because,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's not the best, but if our government is functioning and it at least has the infrastructure to help us if we put money into it and do it properly. But it's like, I don't know. It's kind of scary.